Getting there, folks. Oh, I see someone. I see two people. Hi. Can you hear me? I don't think that...
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, you can. Thank you. Great. I'm Johnny. Hi.
Okay, thank you.
Are you Samantha? No.
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Have a great day. Appreciate that. I had some difficulty getting on.
Well, that's fine. That's not unusual.
So who are you, sirs?
We'll give Samantha a chance to get back to the courtroom, and then we'll go on the record. This is Judge Kremeich.
Oh, thank you, sir. I want you to know you dismissed my Flynn versus Fire Tree, which is a federal prison that opened on my street. And my neighbor living next door was found murdered in his car in the driveway. He's directly next to the prison. And that case has to be heard because there is huge bribery going on. And
I don't remember that case.
Well, Flynn versus Fire Tree. FST CV 20.
You sure it was me?
Yeah. You and Kavinuski, both of you.
Well, we'll hear that at the appropriate time, I'm sure.
No, I'm done. You guys sent a hitman to kill me, so what am I supposed to do? Fight you guys?
All right. Well, we'll go on the record on this matter as soon as Samantha can get back to the courtroom.
Cool. Thank you.
I just got back, Your Honor.
Okay. Let's go on the record.
Yes, Your Honor. It'll be 1 second.
Who's DC?
That's the court monitor.
Ah, very good. Thank you.
We're on the record, Your Honor.
All right. This is the case of Flynn versus Dixon. It's a motion, a special motion to dismiss. Would the parties identify themselves to the record, please, starting with the plaintiff? So, Mr. Flynn?
Mr. Flynn, I'm Johnny. I live at 27 Quintard, Norwalk, Connecticut. I ran for U.S. Senate, and Mr. Ken Dixon slandered me.
So that's what this lawsuit is about. So Mr. Flynn is on the call, and is there someone for Mr. Dixon?
Yes, this is David Schultz. I'm with the Ballard Spahr Law Firm, and I represent Mr. Dixon, who is sued in this case individually.
Okay, Mr. Schultz, you're the Mr. Dixon's the moving party, so you get to go first.
Yes, Judge. This our motion is a special motion to dismiss under the Connecticut anti-SLAPP law. This is a law that is intended to provide a mechanism for early resolution of claims that challenge the exercise of First Amendment rights to avoid an unnecessary chilling effect. And our burden on this motion was to show that the nature of the claim here falls within the scope of the statute, and that means the statute covers claims that are based on the exercise of First Amendment rights, protected rights, if they relate to a matter of public concern and concern communications that occur in a public forum. And as we show in our paper, both of those criteria are met here. This is a challenge to a news story that appeared, I believe, on August 25th in a publication known as the CT Insider, an online publication. It concerned...
Do you have a copy? Are you offering a copy of the publication?
It is attached to my affidavit submitted in support of this motion, which I believe is docket 106.
All right, let me take a look. Okay, so Exhibit A to your affidavit, is that the news article you're referring to?
Yes, it is, Judge. And
are
while
you offering it as an exhibit in this proceeding?
I am, Judge.
Is there an objection to that exhibit?
Yes, I object.
What's the objection?
It violates the Hobbs Act, the Hatch Act, the Administrative Procedures Act, and about 150 laws. So if they want to maintain that when they break the law, they're covered by this immunity type of deal that Tong wrote, well, it's unconstitutional what he wrote. And for many reasons. Not only that, it's being used to target conservatives. It was just used against Lori Hopkins Kavanaugh, who ran for Congress. It was just used by them, designed and written to isolate and target Catholics,
So, Mr.
conservatives. I'm
My
not finished.
My understanding of your
Yeah.
argument
Yeah.
is that you're not objecting that this is the article that Mr. Dixon wrote. You're basically arguing
You're
against
oversimplifying
the constitutionality of applying the anti-SLAPP law to this lawsuit. Is that correct?
Only a fraction. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So with respect to just the motion before me, or the request before me to admit the article as an exhibit at this proceeding, I'm going to admit this as Exhibit 1, or actually it's defendant, so I'll say defendant's Exhibit A, and the news article is a full exhibit. All right. You may continue.
Well, I was kind of cut off.
Well, actually, you're...
And if you continue, you know, I'll just put my hands up. I'm a U.S. Senate candidate. I've had...
Yes, Mr. Flynn.
You don't understand this case.
Now, Mr. Schultz's opportunity to present evidence and to make argument on this matter, and then you'll get an opportunity as well.
Okay,
So,
well,
Mr.
my opportunity was just cut short.
Mr.
ahead.
Schultz may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. So under the anti-SLAPP law, I think the article, Exhibit A, demonstrates that this is a matter which is within the scope of that act. It is an exercise of free speech rights of Mr. Dixon on a matter of public concern in a public forum, so that the act applies. Therefore, the burden shifts to Mr. Flynn to demonstrate that there is probable cause to believe, he has two burdens, actually, under the statute. One is that he has to clearly state the basis of his claim, which I don't think he's done here. But even going beyond that, he has to show that there is a probable cause to believe that he can ultimately be meritorious on his claim. His claims here are essentially for defamation, with some tag-along claims for false light and infliction of emotional distress, both intentional and negligent. And as we show in our memorandum of law, there's no likelihood of success on those claims. First, turning to the defamation claim, the story basically is a true report of the actions of elected officials who rejected petitions that were submitted by Mr. Flynn, raising questions about whether the petitions contained multiple signatures of dead people, and indicating that they were being referred for further investigation, and that the State Commission on Elections was likely to take it up at its next hearing. Those are the basic facts that are conveyed in the story, and there's no allegation that those facts are not true. In other words, that the election officials did question his petitions and did refer them for further investigation, and that was to be taken up. So there's a fundamental failure here to allege a defamation claim because the story is basically a true story. Furthermore, just as a pleading matter, there's no allegation of the defamatory meaning, which we're entitled to have Mr. Flynn's statement of what he thinks it conveyed about him that's defamatory. And there's no claim for defamatory innuendo in any event when it's based on entirely true facts, which is what we have here. So for a number of reasons, the defamation claims, and there's yet a further reason, which is that Mr. Flynn never made a retraction demand under the retraction statute, and therefore under that law, he has to have actual damages or allege actual out-of-pocket costs and damages to have a claim. If he fails to retract, he can't proceed on a general claim of reputational harm, and he didn't do that, and for that reason, the claim is deficient as well. And as we show, the false light claim also fails because it fundamentally requires a false fact conveyed at the heart of it, which it doesn't. The story is substantially true, and both of the intentional infliction claims fail for a number of reasons, which are laid out in our memo. The negligence primarily, that under the First Amendment you can't have a claim against speech on a matter of public concern that rests on a negligence finding. So that would be impermissible just under the First Amendment. And under the intentional infliction tort, there's a number of problems. Primarily, there's an allegation that there has to be an allegation that the intent of the publication was specifically to cause emotional distress, and that's clearly not the case here. This was a news story, and the conduct has to be extreme and outrageous, and there's case law that says that publication of news reports is not extreme and outrageous in and of itself. So all of the claims are effective on their face. We don't think the plaintiff has met his burden, and therefore, under the anti-SLAPP law, the complaint should be stricken at the outset and dismissed with prejudice.
Are you seeking fees?
We will ultimately see. We will, in a follow-on motion, that would be our intent. If this motion is granted, we're entitled to make a claim for fees. It is part of our motion. We haven't put in a dollar amount yet. We were going to do that if an award is granted.
Okay, anything further?
Not on this motion. There were some other things perhaps to clean up. I don't know if you want to take this first, but there were some earlier motions that I think...
Well, I believe the only motion before me is the motion to dismiss. I don't know what any previous motions are before me.
Okay. Then
that's my docket. Make sure I'm correct on that. Yeah, the only thing on my docket is a special motion to dismiss. So that's the only matter I'm going to take up today.
Very good.
Okay, Mr. Flynn.
Will I be able to answer completely?
You can. The floor is yours.
Okay. So, first, the newspaper did this exact same thing to Ethan Book. They cut and paste my name into the article, practically. They did it to Tom Gilmer, and they did it to T.J. Elgin. Gilmer ran for Congress, T.J. ran for Congress, Ethan Book ran for U.S. Senate and Congress. He recently ran against Jim Himes. They did the exact same thing. They called him Don Quixote, just like me. And I did complain to the Stamford Advocate office, to the editor, okay, because Ken Dixon doesn't ever return any calls, no emails, nothing. So here we go. I've sent him 50 emails, no response. 5-0. So I speak to the guy in Stamford at the Advocate. It's actually in Norwalk, Connecticut, at Route 7, the Merritt location. Mike Pignataro. I've talked to him many times. Obviously, the attorney never got a phone call. So when you're stating the facts of the case, I contacted no dead people. That is impossible to contact a dead person. Okay? First of all, I bought a list from the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, and the Independent Party of all registered voters. The list is a verified list. In other words, I paid extra to verify that they were legally registered voters for the 2022 election. I paid a lot of money for it, and I am damaged. And what I did do was send 1.5 million emails to those 300,000 very expensive email addresses of live people. Okay? Live people. Now, after I sent 1.5 million emails, I got 57,962 signatures. And they are alive people, okay? Alive. And guess what? Guess what? This newspaper didn't call me. The statements are false. It's damaging. And what Ken Dixon did was he called Ted Bromley, Director of Elections. I sent the 57,000 signatures in. I hand-delivered them on August 3rd. Every single signature was denied. That's 57,962 felonies. It is a felony not to accept or destroy a petitioning candidate's signature. Okay? You can say whatever you want. Then, and that's a related case. We are suing Ted Bromley in another case. Ted Bromley got together with Ken Dixon, this attorney, this news reporter, okay? And they circulated letters saying that they would not allow a Trump supporter to ever hold office in Connecticut again. And then they conspired to destroy 96% of those 57,000 signatures. Okay? Ken Dixon conspired with Ted Bromley, Director of Elections, and Ina Carini to destroy. There is no chain of custody on these documents. I went on August 3rd, as I said, they were all rejected. I went back on August 9th, which was the next available appointment they would take. I gave them all 57,962 signatures for a second time. And again, based on their conspiracy, every single signature was denied for a second time. Now, the last day to give the signatures was August 10th, the following day. So I went on August 3rd and I went on August 9th, and August 10th is the last day they could accept them. Guess what happened? I was threatened. The signatures were accepted. I gave them all to about 15 people. And they promised they would send them to the town clerks in every town. Well, let me show, can I show you an exhibit? I mean, I have a book from Stanford. Every signature given to Stanford was rejected. How is that possible? Because they were told by these conspirators that the people were dead. That's what happened here. I went to the city of Stanford. I went to the town clerk. I said, hey, why didn't you... And the law says, are either of you familiar with 7WW? Executive order from Lamont, the governor? It says that you can't deny my signatures. A, because of COVID, they loosened the restrictions for petitioning candidates to get on the Senate election, a federal race, which is quite serious. This has never happened before. No one's ever reported this happening before. But what happened is I gave 300 signatures to the Stanford town clerk, and they denied them all. Mr. Kremeich, do you know Sam Magliari?
You can continue your argument.
They rejected his signature. Is he alive? Yes, he's alive, right? Do you know Heather Lindsay? You should. She's alive. Okay? My sister is certainly alive. Okay, but they were told they were dead people by Ted Bromley and Ken Dixon, and through his mail, and then they had a meeting with every town clerk. Guess what happened there? They told everyone that my signatures were dead people, which is not true. I paid the state for a valid list of voters that were registered. I focused on the independent party itself because I am a Republican. I figured I would gather some Republican support I didn't target the Republicans. I wasn't in the Republican primary. I petitioned as an independent to get direct access to the ballot, seeing that I was competing with the Republicans and the Democrats, and the independent party is 42% of the state. All I needed to do was capture the independent vote to win, period. What happened? Ken Dixon and Ted Bromley and Irina and old Ted Liu and about 6 people held meetings with the Town Clerks Association, lied. And when you lie about a petitioning candidate signature, that's a felony. So Mr. Ken Dixon is an accomplice to 50,000 felonies, folks. And by the way, Connecticut had a rule, 7WW executive order, that relaxed the petitioning signatures to be electronic. In other words, this is the first time ever. We're a non-verification state, by the way. They don't verify the signatures even when you vote. But setting a standard here to make my votes don't count is also unconstitutional. So I'm appealing to the Supreme Court, no matter what. And the fact that I have filed 350 lawsuits in the state of Connecticut and all 350 have been dismissed means that every single time I file a subpoena, it's denied. I've never had a witness go to court. I've never had a deposition taken. They're not approved. I've never had a articulation. Every articulation, Your Honor, that I've ever asked you to give me was denied. I'm a pro se litigator. There is a huge bias. Yes, Justice Chase Rogers has a 45-minute video instructing the judges not to allow a pro se litigator to do anything. You can't get an articulation. You can't get anything approved. I have submitted 45 subpoenas in one case. 0 approved. 500,000 felonies, folks. Money laundering. I took it all the way to the federal courts. Dismissed. There's 15 dismissed cases in the federal court right now that I filed against Bernie Madoff. Okay? Against Bernie Madoff, the biggest criminal of all time. And 200 cases in the Stanford Superior Court were dismissed. The federal court cases were dismissed, and the arbitrations were dismissed. So there we go. No justice, no due process. Ken Dixon is a criminal, folks. He is slandering every conservative, every Catholic. Yes, he is. I didn't contact a single dead person because I didn't have their names. I bought their email addresses. I sent an email out introducing myself. I sent a second email out saying, hey, you responded. You gave me your name. Now what dead person sends an email back to me giving me their name? Then I said, hey, another email. What is your address? Are you registered to vote? The answer is yes. They come back to me. I said, okay, so now a dead person responded twice to an email, and I never bought their names. I collected their names, then I collected their addresses, then I asked them for permission electronically to add them to a petitioning ballot, which is legal because they agreed. And Ken Dixon didn't bother to even he doesn't know what 7WW is. Those are the instructions to me to electronically petition during COVID so I don't have to shake people's hands at country fairs. So I don't have to knock on doors and meet every person in the city that I'm going to so I don't spread COVID. Understand? You can't knock on a pregnant woman's door, expect her to hear you out for 2 minutes, and ask her for a petition to be signed to put you on the ballot. So what's happening here is the largest fraud There is a case, Your Honor, that I filed. It's FST CV 22-502-7404. I am suing
Give me
all.
that again.
It's Flynn versus his co-conspirator. His co-conspirator is Ted Bromley. Flynn versus Bromley, Secretary of State. Kohler, it's called. Mark Kohler was the Secretary of State, but he was Assistant Attorney General under Blumenthal when Blumenthal was Attorney General. So what happened was, Blumenthal and he have an agreement. Yes, they do. Kohler became Secretary of State when Denise Merrill stepped down abruptly on June 30th, which Mr. Ken Dixon is fully aware of, that Kohler came in. He had a conflict of interest working for Blumenthal for 12 years, that he became Secretary of State, and he blocked my petitioning candidates' signatures. Mr. Kohler worked with Ken Dixon, their office, back and forth, back and forth. Meanwhile, people are calling me saying, Johnny, what's this? What's this about? I say, oh, Ken Dixon had a meeting with Ted Bromley, and Bromley had a meeting with Kate Wall. Kate Wall is the defendant 3 in the case I just mentioned, 22-502-7404-S, Flynn versus Kohler. I'm appealing that to the Supreme Court too. Why? Because it's corruption. Read the case. Read the complaint. If you read the complaint, you will see that Danbury, Connecticut hacked Pennsylvania in the 2022 election, flipped Trump votes to Biden. 20 states were hacked by Connecticut in the 2020 election. Now they're doing this in the 2022 election. Blocking. I'm not the only candidate that was blocked here. Ken Dixon blocked 13 candidates. I'm only one of them. Okay? He blocked a gubernatorial candidate. He blocked Kevin Allen, who was running for lieutenant governor. He blocked multiple. 13 of us got blocked by these people. So the fact is, I'm working now in that other lawsuit, and they're all interested in coming in too and saying, hi, I gave 10,000 signatures to Ted Bromley. Oh, well, I gave him 57,000. I only needed 5,000. I gave him 11 times what I needed. And guess what? Since they destroyed 96% of them, they kept me from the absentee ballot. They kept me from the ballot illegally. That's the Hatch Act. Mr. Bromley is going to jail. I have so much evidence on him. And you know who Sam Magliari is. He's alive. You know who Andrew Pritchard is. He's alive. I went to his house. I signed his mother-in-law, his son Owen, his son Luke. I signed his wife. Her name is Brenda, I believe. I have their information from Norwalk. I gave 500 signatures to Norwalk. They were destroyed. Now hold on. Everyone knows Andrew Pritchard. Everyone knows who Andrew Pritchard is. He just had a $3.5 million home stolen on the water in Norwalk for zero. He had no mortgage. It's going to be national news. So why is Ken Dixon working with 316 registrars of voters and 169 town clerks times 2? There are 630 defendants in the other case. Ask me why the state took those petitions, sent them to the clerks, and instructed the clerks, based on this article written by Ken Dixon, oh, Mr. Flynn's a criminal. Really? I didn't contact these people. I emailed them from a list that I bought, that I paid it to be verified. What happened was, I think 3 people died. Well, yeah, if you send out 1.5 million emails in May, June, July, and August of 2022, there's probably 3 people that will die because I sent 1.5 million emails out. I mean, honestly. Well, okay. The first time they emailed me back, I got their name and address, or they said, yeah, Johnny, I want you on the petition. Here's my signature. They signed electronically. And guess what happened? Bromley refused the electronic signature in the COVID 7WW executive order of Lamont, and they committed 50,000 felonies. It's straight up in the law. Read the Hatch Act. This is the most serious election fraud case in the country. Worse than Arizona, folks. Worse than Arizona. And Arizona is proving that the drug cartels bought Hobbs 11 properties and she collects the rents. And this is coming out. Okay, it's all coming out. However, what you don't realize is if you go to that second case on the screen, let's go to it. Do you mind?
Well, what's the argument with respect to Mr. Dixon?
Mr. Dixon's a kingpin who organized. Now, I have his letters, okay? I have his. Ted Bromley says he never spoke to Ken Dixon, and Ken Dixon says he did. Well, that means Ted Bromley's a liar or Ken Dixon's a liar. Either way, when you say to me, I have the East Hartford letters, the Guilford letters, I have the Stamford letters. Stamford has, you probably know this. I mean, you know Judge Randolph, correct? Judge Randolph heard the McCosey case in Stamford. He just got indicted on 28 counts of voter fraud, okay? They cut a deal. He get left off the hook. Okay, what happened in my case is 100 times worse. He sent absentee ballots out. He falsified the signatures. He admitted to it. This is the same city that refused my signatures, tore them up, filled out absentee ballots, pre-filled out. They took the name of the people, they signed them themselves, they created all these records illegally. And I am maintaining there's 600,000 of those. 600,000 Democrats voted by mail prior to the election. Not a single signature was verified because Connecticut is a non-verification state. And what I am saying is the race, hold on, was determined prior to the election.
Flynn,
yeah.
That's a different lawsuit. Right now we're talking about...
No, I'm saying he's their accomplice.
Special motion to dismiss the action you brought against Mr. Dixon. Now you're telling me about some other conspiracy.
I'm saying it's related.
That's not germane.
Okay, is that what you think?
Let's get back to
read the letters.
Mr. Dixon. What are your claims against Mr. Dixon?
Mr. Dixon said in letters with Ted Bromley that we are not going to allow a Trump supporter to ever hold office in Connecticut again. And you know what? I'm not a Trump supporter other than I prefer him over Biden. Okay? I prefer him over Biden. Why? Because I'm a biotechnology analyst. I understand vaccines. Okay? That's not a vaccine. That's a pathogen. It's an mRNA gene therapy. It's not a vaccine. It does not inoculate against COVID, and it is criminal. Okay? The fact is, it's criminal. It's going to come out over time, and there's going to be millions of deaths because of that thing.
All right. Well, that's another conspiracy theory.
Well, that's what Ken Dixon supports.
Link that to Mr. Dixon.
Excuse me?
Please tell me what your case is against Mr. Dixon.
Mr. Dixon violated the Hatch Act, interfered with a federal law, interfered with an election by making false statements that he never tried to substantiate. Never tried. Hi, Mr. Flynn's out there signing up dead people. No, dead people can't sign. Hello. Dead people can't tell me their name and address and check a box saying I authorize you to put me on the petitioning ballot under the 7WW COVID rules that were signed by the governor, A, written by Kohler. Kohler drafted the rules that Ken Dixon violated. Yeah, and they did it together because, hell, there's no retraction. I asked for one. I can send you the emails to Mike Pignataro, except that he never calls you back. And by the way, this newspaper has been lying about me for years. They lied about me, about Ryan Park, okay? Ryan Park had PCBs, 642 parts per million. One PCB is illegal. They tore down.
Again,
hold on. This is murder, okay? Their articles murdered people.
Separate matter.
It's not a separate matter.
Claims against Mr. Dixon.
Ken Dixon's involved because the media runs Connecticut. The media is just like CNN. Actually, what's funny is Channel 12 is owned by CNN. Did you know that? Probably not, because they don't tell everyone. I'm saying the media is beyond fake news in Connecticut. Worse than anywhere else. I can prove to you all day. I have a database right here.
Claims against Mr. Dixon. You've made some rather far-reaching
He's
claims,
a criminal.
but they're not.
Yeah.
But you haven't.
I just said he violated the Hatch Act.
You haven't brought them back to the claims you've made in this action. Now, as I understand it.
Oh, you're saying that there's a false light?
Mr. Dixon defamed you.
Yeah.
Dixon defamed you, cast you in a false light.
Yep.
Intentionally and negligently inflicted emotional distress.
By the way, I worked 4 years on this campaign.
Excuse me. Sorry, Mr. Flynn. Just let me. What I've heard you say is that Mr. Dixon did that both in an article that was published. The article that was published. That's an exhibit in this proceeding.
Right.
And also in you're claiming that Mr. Dixon made statements directly to Mr. Bromley.
Yep.
And a meeting with...
I caught it on video. I have it on video.
Sorry. So Mr. Dixon made the same statements
Yep.
in a meeting with election officials. I believe you said that.
Correct.
So why don't you tell me more about that?
Okay, so the SEEK, which is Elections Enforcement, called Mr. Dixon. That's why Mr. Dixon wrote the article. And now Mr. Ahern has resigned at the SEEK. Okay? Mr. Ahern is a defendant in that other case I was mentioning. Mr. Ahern contacted the Town Clerks Association, Catherine Wall. People from different towns told Ken Dixon, he claimed, that family members called saying, Mr. Flynn signed my dead relative's petition. I said, hold on a second. I hired a third party to do this, folks. I was campaigning, for 4 years. I spent a ton of money on this campaign. And to say I didn't accept money from anybody except about 45 people that insisted on giving me a contribution. Fine. Little old ladies were mailing me $5 saying, please, I'm pro-life. Do this. I'm the only pro-life guy in the state, by the way. But I don't enforce. I'm pro-gun. Yeah. But I'm not crazy about it. We don't need semi-automatics. All these things. People say, Johnny, you're the only guy out there that goes to church on Sunday. Yeah. Hi. I'm raising my children to be ethical. Well, okay, fine. The candidate I ran against.
So I'm
giving you the foundation that you need.
I'm trying to understand. So what you just told me is it Ms. Wall of the association
Yep.
contacted Mr. Dixon?
Yep.
to say that relatives were complaining that people, dead people.
Well, like in Middletown, in Middlebury, I guess. Middlebury had a guy called Ken Dixon. A guy in Middlebury.
So,
I don't know his name.
So you're claiming that didn't happen or that it did happen?
Well, hold on a second. If they rejected my signatures, how would they know who signed my petition? They never took my signatures, and they threw them in the garbage. They never sent them to the town clerks. If they never sent them to the town clerks, well, who's going to know that I was contacted by a dead guy before he died, and he gave me authorization through an electronic signature through Utah? I hired a guy in Utah to do this for me.
So again, what did Mr. Dixon do wrong in that circumstance?
He published, without checking, false information that even the chair of the Independent Party called me, the chair of the Republican Party called me and said, "You signed dead people?" I said, "I've never spoken to a dead person. I don't know what you're talking about. I bought the email list from them. It's their data."
The false information
Right.
was information that was conveyed to Mr. Dixon by
Correct.
Ms. Wall?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Ted Bromley, Irina Carini, whatever her name is, and the guy who resigned, Ahern. Ahern is the Sikh enforcement guy.
Okay.
What happens is any allegation that of a person running for office or in office goes to elections enforcement, okay? They said, "Oh, we're looking into this." Now, meanwhile, I'm running. Mr. Flynn's being accused of signing dead people. We're going to fully investigate him. So now the Republican Party is asking me to resign. Really? So the Independent Party, I already have their endorsement, is saying, "Johnny, we can't endorse you. We already endorsed you, but we have to pull it back because Ken Dixon's saying that you contacted dead people." I said, "No, I bought a list of active voters registered." The problem here, Your Honor, is that 40% of Bridgeport's voter roll is wrong. They're either dead or they moved away. They haven't cleaned the Bridgeport voter rolls. So when you purchase a list of voters from Bridgeport, I had to throw half of it out because when I sent out an email saying, "Hey, I see you as a registered voter in the city of Bridgeport," they say, "Oh no, Johnny, he died 5 years ago." "Oh, okay. Sorry to bother. Have a nice day." Okay, so there's countless emails coming back to me saying, "Oh no, you reached my brother. My brother passed away 11 years ago."
Yeah, so you're working with the list that you bought with that list. Well, coming back to Mr. Dixon then, what you're telling me is that the Republican Party asked you to resign and
Yep.
the Independent Party asked you to withdraw.
Yep.
And your claim is that that was as a result of the article that Mr. Dixon published.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I was damaged, believe you me.
And you were damaged in that you had spent money
4 years.
to obtain these signatures.
I went to every town in Connecticut multiple times.
But
I
you
continue
money
I continue to go to those towns. This week I went to Rockville, Columbia, Lebanon. So I'm continuing.
Okay, but what I'm trying to get at is what your claim is in this case, and your claim of damages in this case is that you had to spend money in order to go through this process to obtain these signatures, which you claim were not.
I knocked doors for 4 years.
Qualified.
Yeah.
I'm restating your argument here.
Right.
I want to make sure I understand
Right.
it. More than enough to qualify for the ballot, and you were damaged in the sense that you had paid for this process, and the process was
Right.
came to naught because of Mr. Dixon's article.
Based on the letters that they sent out saying that no Trump supporter will ever hold office in Connecticut again, and this is what we're going to do about it. Yeah, I have a problem.
Mr. Dixon didn't send those letters out.
No,
did he?
but here we go. they're listed in his file with the Secretary of State's office. So you tell me what happened here. They gave me the articles, not no one else. I never knew that East Hartford had an issue with Ahern where Ken Dixon's name came up and Bromley's name came up and all these other people. There's other people I don't really know. There's a lady named Taffy involved, Taffy Womack. Did she talk to Ken Dixon? Probably.
So you were asked to resign by the Republicans as a candidate, and you were asked to withdraw at the Independent Party. Did you resign and withdraw?
Well, this is what happened. So, for example, in Stamford, they had a huge dinner. And they invited all candidates running for office. So they had 3 candidates running for Congress against Jim Himes. They came. They all spoke, okay? They had the gubernatorial candidate, Bob Stefanowski. He spoke. They had the lieutenant governor position, the state, attorney general position. All the people spoke. I showed up, bought a ticket, and they told me, you're not allowed to speak ever again. Really? Why? Because of Ken Dixon's article, you're making Republicans look bad. I said, I'm running as an independent. They said, blah, 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 big argument, fine, I don't care. The point is this, no Republican, when 20% of the state's Republican, no Republican will ever win unless they gather independent party support, because the Democratic Party is 39% of the state. And there's a lot of people unhappy with both parties that are in the independent party that just vote the candidate. Hey, this candidate I like, this candidate I don't like. So the point is...
Part of your damage from this article that you're claiming is that you've been blackballed as a Republican candidate going forward.
Forever. I'm running against Murphy. Hold on, I put an injunction on the Blumenthal race in October prior to the race because 13 candidates are missing because of Ken Dixon. Hello. 13 candidates were kept off the ballot that legally got the signatures needed because of Ken Dixon.
That's the subject, as I understand it, of your other case that you were telling me about. But in this case, have you told me everything there is to tell me?
No, all the points that this attorney made.
In opposition to the motion to dismiss, which is the motion in front of me, that relate to your claims against Mr. Dixon.
It's criminal conspiracy, folks. It's criminal. Yeah, I'd like you to refer this. Huh?
I'm sorry, you're claiming Dixon conspired with all of the defendants in the other...
Look at the article. Look at the letter. Hold on. They wrote a letter to him and every other newspaper. The Sikh wrote a letter to Ken Dixon saying I contacted all the dead people. And they mailed it to 15 newspapers, not one. Ken Dixon's the only idiot that took up the letter and printed it. And everyone else contacted me and said, is this true? I said, no. No, it's not true. But Ken Dixon didn't care. And he's never contacted me. He's never called me.
So by Sikh, you mean Mr. Ahern?
Yes, who has resigned now. They forced him out. Because why? Because Ahern wrote Ken Dixon a letter. He also wrote the Mirror, the Hour, the Advocate, WFSB. They wrote 15 newspapers, folks. The Hartford Courant, the New Haven Register, they're all on there. That letter went to every newspaper agency. Many of them did their due diligence, and one did not. And he ran with it. And you know what? He did it for Ted Bromley, who is a criminal. Because I can prove, okay? I can prove that Enfield, Connecticut hacked Vermont. I can prove Wisconsin was hacked. Norwalk hacked a town. Glastonbury hacked a town. All election fraud through Miss Gillette at Pura, who's our cybersecurity expert at CISA, Connecticut. What's happening here is this is a criminal cabal siphoning gas and putting it in Ken Dixon's car. That's what's going on here. And I intend to prove it.
So basically, the letter came from Ahern, and Dixon's publication, Connecticut Insider, was the only one that published it?
Correct. Because they didn't bother to call me.
And that, so the part of the claim you have...
No, there's four articles. There's four articles
Part
there.
of the claim against Mr. Dixon is that he did not contact you to determine the veracity of what Mr. Ahern had said in the letter.
I confronted Ted Bromley directly. I got in my car and I went to his office and I filmed it. You know what happened? In Ted Bromley's office, I picked up the phone. I picked up with a file. I opened it to Stamford, to Norwalk, my town, and I said, Mr. Bromley, let's call Andrew Pritchard. He goes, okay. I call Andrew Pritchard, who you know, and Andrew Pritchard answers the phone. I said, Andy, it's Johnny. What's up? I'm in Ted Bromley's office, Secretary of State. Do you know Owen Pritchard? He goes, yeah. Do you live at 19 Prospect, or whatever it is, in East Norwalk? He goes, yeah. I go, do you know who Luke Pritchard is? Yeah, that's my 21-year-old son. Was he born on September 30th, 1997? Yes. Oh, who's this other person? Were they born on this? Are these their birth dates?
Well,
yeah.
You're telling me that in your meeting with Mr. Bromley, you established that some of the signatures on your petition were living people.
Yeah.
But getting back to Mr. Dixon.
Hold on. Do you know how many they're claiming are not living?
Well, I'm at this point, I don't know that that's germane. But what's germane?
Well, it is germane.
Anything you wish to tell me about Mr. Dixon and the claims that you've made in this action? I realize you've got another action where the claims are a little bit more, or much more broad.
I'm saying they framed this case just like the T.J. Elgin case, just like the Gilmer case, just like the Ethan Book case. Ethan Book just recently passed away. He had a pancreas problem. He died. He didn't have COVID.
Okay, now you're telling me about other cases.
Yeah, because they cut and pasted my name into that same article that Ethan Book is in.
Okay, so what you're saying is that part of the article that's in front of me now? I haven't read the article yet. I will.
I'm not sure what article you have. I never got notice of this meeting. I just got a call. You're supposed to be on this. I'm like, really? Because I get 500 emails a day. No one called me.
All right. So, do you have anything else to tell me in opposition to the motion to dismiss, the special motion to dismiss?
The Hatch Act applies to even the judge's rulings when it comes to intervening in a federal election. I am saying that knowing the facts, which you're beginning to learn, and there's a lot more facts, that the court has a bias, I claim, that even Andrew Pritchard, who you know is alive, his signature was not counted in a federal election, nor was his wife, any of his boys, or his mother-in-law. I went to their house. Hold on.
It's the subject of your other lawsuit.
No, it's not.
Getting back
Excuse
to
me.
this Dixon.
He's alive.
Dixon.
He's alive. He's not dead. He's alive.
Getting back
You
to
know it.
claims of Dixon.
Yeah? It's a claim of Dixon that he's dead. And you know him. And you know he's alive. And he's not dead. And they haven't told me the names of anyone who claims to be dead. Because guess what?
With respect to your claims against Mr. Dixon, you've told me everything that you have to tell me. Is that correct?
No.
Well, you're now getting into rather large conspiracies that aren't.
It's not hold on.
Act.
It is a conspiracy. It's not conspiracy theory that it's not true. It's true. I can
Well,
prove.
it's a conspiracy allegation, as far as I'm concerned, but it's not an allegation in this lawsuit. In this lawsuit, as I understand it, your claims relate to what Mr. Dixon published.
Mr. Dixon obviously published it as a favor because he gets all the articles about Lamont, about Attorney General Tong. He gets an exclusive. He prints whatever they tell him, whether it's true or not. Now, there are so many... you know what? Let me finish my sentence. There's so many articles. I can give you 500 today with false information.
They're not subject to this lawsuit. There's one
The guy is a oxy pill mill. That's what he is. I've sent Ken Dixon hundreds of articles, hundreds of things I think he should print. And he has never printed one. Okay? Never printed one. I am currently suing the state of Connecticut for 5G. There's 27 defendants. Okay? Guess what? No one's covering the story. Why? Because I'm a Republican. Guess what? Every kid in Connecticut will be infertile. Every single kid in Connecticut will have autism. And every single kid in Connecticut will have cancer. And now Ken Dixon knows.
None of the allegations that you just made with respect to the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, which I understood you to say.
Yeah.
Basically, none of that was covered in this article, and it's not part of this lawsuit. It may be part of some other lawsuits that you brought.
If Ken Dixon did not print, if Ken Dixon...
anything else you wish to tell me with respect to the claims against Dixon in this lawsuit, in opposition to the motion to dismiss this case under the SLAPP Act, Anti-SLAPP Act.
You know, am I talking to a brick wall? I mean, the point of the matter is no paper, not one newspaper in the state of Connecticut printed my name in 4 years as a candidate running for U.S. Senate. Not one. Okay? Except the slander. Okay, so when they announced 6 candidates running against Richard Blumenthal, they didn't put my name in it. Okay? They announced 5. They said Leora Levy was running. Okay? Leora Levy had 7 abortions. Ken Dixon knows. And she's claiming to be pro-life. Why? Because it's rigged. Who the hell can maintain she's pro-life having 7 abortions? I told Ken Dixon that. He refused to print it. Why? Because he's keeping his audience in the dark about reality. Reality is...
That's not part of your claims. And that's not
it is. It is. It's not only that he printed false statements, that he didn't print the truth.
He didn't print the truth.
Correct.
About your efforts to submit the petition.
Do you know what? Hold on.
Correct?
Do you know who Peter Lamage is? Do you know who Peter Lamage is? He ran for U.S. Senate. Peter Lamage. He's from Fairfield. He's an Albanian. Do you know he's been maintaining for 12 years that he's a lawyer? Though he's never taken the bar. Doesn't have it. Hold on.
I'm sorry. You're going way far.
No. Because Ken Dixon wrote that he's an attorney when he knows he's not an attorney.
He wrote. That's not in this lawsuit.
Excuse me.
This lawsuit, Mr. Flynn.
It's okay. So it's false.
I've heard your argument.
Okay.
I understand it.
Cool.
Your argument is basically that you were defamed by Mr. Dixon in that article, and that and you've alleged, I assume, that Mr. Dixon is part of a conspiracy with the folks that passed the information, which you claim is false, over to Mr. Dixon. And Mr. Dixon, although they sent it to 15 other newspapers, excuse me, Mr. Dixon is the only one that did not do due diligence, did not call you to verify the information.
Very good. Well done.
And that you've been damaged by that.
Correct.
and you've been blackballed by the Republicans. Your candidacy for Senate was unsuccessful as a result of Dixon's article.
Well, hold on. You know that his article kept me off the absentee ballot and the ballot. Now, hold on a second. That's a quite serious claim, and it's true. His article kept me off the ballot. And by the way, I know much more through my FBI briefings than I can tell you right now. But this whole house of cards is coming down, folks.
So what, and just to close the loop as far as I'm concerned in this thing, the Senate, you're focusing on your candidacy for the Senate in 2022, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I know I am now running for 2024, but I still have the injunction on the Blumenthal race because it's about to be overturned. It is completely, the Blumenthal race is done. It wasn't even certified by the legislature.
Okay, but the point being in this lawsuit, it's your damages all relate to your candidacy for the Senate in 2022. Okay, I understand your claims in this lawsuit.
Can I make one final comment?
Yes, you may.
Sorry. There are 23 judges in the Stanford Superior Court with capias writs against them, and the people who wrote the writs witnessed the events. Like, for example, I signed one against Judge White, who jacked a guy's bail from $150,000 to $650,000. He's a whistleblower. He signed my petition. I want to know why, if you know Sam Magliari's alive and he signed my petition, okay, I'd like Sam to have his day in court. And by the way, I have my recollection is that you have a capias writ against you, which is fine and dandy. You can explain it at the hearing, but why was the hearing denied? Why was the hearing denied? Hold on a second. If the law is to be followed in the state of Connecticut, why isn't there a hearing for the capias writs? And I'm not accusing you of anything. I don't know what your capias writ is about. I heard you have one.
I'm not aware I have any.
I think you do.
That's beyond the point.
No, it's not beyond the point.
I understand.
It's not behind the point. It's not beyond the point. It's criminal.
Okay.
There's a habeas corpus. There's a habeas corpus for Judge Kavanowski. Why hasn't it been heard?
All right. Okay. So, Mr. Schultz, you've submitted papers on this. I assume you don't want to reply to the oral argument.
No, Judge. I would just encourage you to read the article, and I think in the course of this argument,
the article is in evidence. So
there's four articles, folks. There's four, not one. Four. There's four articles, folks.
All right. Okay. So I've heard the argument. I'll take a look at the papers, and I'll take a look at the article, and I'll reach a decision.
Your Honor?
Right now, I'm going to reserve decision.
Yeah. The anti-SLAPP question, when am I going to get that in the mail?
I'm sorry, what are you...
I'm not aware this is about anti-SLAPP, which I know a little bit about. Why don't I have that in the mail to me? I'm not on electronic filing. I'm saying
You're not on electronic filing?
I am in the Kohler case, but I'm not approved for this case or any other case. There's only one I'm approved for. By the way, this is my 350th case. I've been denied 349 times. Now, I'm wondering why I don't have his anti-SLAPP jargon from him directly. I'm finding out about it on the Zoom call.
Judge, if I could I address that, please?
Well, I see that Mr. Flynn has appeared, and he's appeared, and...
I got a call. Get on the call. I got on the call because I got a call.
You filed things in this case. I see at least two things you filed in this case, including a reply to this motion.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to take this matter under advisement, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
that was the Ken Dixon hearing. It's an hour and 4 minutes. Ken Dixon's a criminal, folks. Yeah, because he lied. And you know what? He did the same thing to T.J. Elgin that he did to me. He did it to Ethan Book, who recently passed away from pancreatic cancer or whatever he had. And he did it to Tom Gilmer. There we go. Have a great day.